There is a hidden force that shapes your reality, a silent architect working behind the scenes of your life, your assumptions, what you deeply believe to be true, not just what you hope for, but what you assume as inevitable, becomes the framework upon which your life unfolds. If you live as though your desire is already fulfilled, your mind, emotions, and actions begin to align with that reality. This is not mere wishful thinking. It is the psychological principle that your inner world gives birth to your outer experience. Today, we will explore 6 powerful truths about living in the assumption of your fulfilled desire. These are not abstract theories. They are keys to unlocking a life of purpose, success, and profound transformation. The mind is the great architect of all realities. Before a single brick is laid in the physical world, the structure has already taken shape in the silent chambers of thought. Everything you see around you, the buildings that scrape the sky, the music that moves your soul, the technology that transforms your life, was first a whisper in someone's imagination. Creation always begins within, and reality follows obediently. If you desire to change your outer world, you must first master the inner one. This is not merely a poetic idea. It is an undeniable law of existence. Every achievement, every triumph, every act of greatness has been born from the invisible blueprint of thought. When you assume that your desire is already fulfilled, you do something extraordinary. You command your subconscious mind to orchestrate the conditions that match that inner state. This is not magic, though it feels magical. It is the natural consequence of a mind living in alignment with its assumption. Your behaviors shift without force. Your choices lean toward the inevitable. You begin to speak differently, walk differently, and act differently, not because you are pretending, but because your assumption has taken root as reality in your inner world. Consider the athlete who stands before a roaring stadium, the weight of expectation pressing upon his shoulders. Do you think his first encounter with victory happens in that moment? No. Long before the world sees his triumph, he has seen it countless times in the theater of his mind. Sports psychologists have revealed something fascinating. When athletes vividly imagine their performance, the same neural pathways are activated as when they physically train. The body responds to imagination as though it were reality. This is why champions rehearse victory internally before the world ever crowns them. They do not merely hope to win, they live as though they already have. They assume success so completely that the body, the mind, and the universe have no choice but to comply. But let us bring this down to you, to the quiet struggles and aspirations that dwell in your heart. Perhaps you long for a better career, deeper love, financial freedom, or vibrant health. The first question you must ask yourself is this: what mental picture am I feeding every day? For your mind is a garden, and it does not discriminate between seeds of abundance and seeds of lack. If you constantly rehearse failure in your imagination, if you dwell on what you lack and fear, then your subconscious will weave that into the fabric of your reality. Life, like an obedient servant, will echo the scarcity you continually picture. Yet the opposite is also true. If you dare to assume the state of your fulfilled desire, if you live inwardly in the wealth you seek, the love you crave, the health you yearn for, your entire being begins to harmonize with that vision. Slowly, without strain, opportunities appear. Ideas surface. Strength rises where once there was weakness. You are drawn almost magnetically to the people, places, and circumstances that match the picture you hold. This is not an illusion. It is psychology in motion. Your subconscious mind cannot distinguish between what is vividly imagined and what is physically experienced. If you live mentally in the reality you desire, You reprogram the deepest layers of your being. Your actions begin to align with that new state. Your decisions reflect it. Your conversations confirm it. And the outer world, like clay in the hands of a potter, begins to shape itself around your assumption. Do not underestimate the power of this principle. The life you are living now is not an accident. It is the harvest of assumptions planted long ago. Change the picture, and you will change the outcome. Let your inner world become a sanctuary of your highest vision. Feed it daily, not with desperate longing, but with quiet certainty. Walk through your day as though the desire has already materialized, not with arrogance, but with calm assurance. This is the posture of those who understand the creative power of mind. They know that reality is only a delayed reflection of what they have already embraced within. So I ask you once more, what mental picture are you feeding? Is it one of limitation, fear, and lack? Or is it a vision of abundance, joy, and fulfillment so vivid that the world cannot help but bow to its form? Choose carefully, for your mind is not a passive observer. It is the silent architect of your destiny. Thought alone does not move mountains. It is not enough to hold an idea in the mind like a cold stone in the palm. Assumption is not an intellectual exercise. It is a living, breathing experience, and its lifeblood is emotion. The mind may sketch the outlines of a dream, but it is the heart that gives it color and warmth. Without emotion, desire remains a shadow on the wall, seen but without substance. When you feel something deeply, you summon forces within you that thought alone can never awaken. The subconscious mind does not respond to dry reasoning. It speaks an ancient language, one that has no grammar, no logic, no argument, only feeling. Emotion is its native tongue. What you feel with intensity and persistence sinks into that fertile soil where belief takes root and action springs forth. The subconscious does not analyze whether your feeling is born of imagination or reality. It simply accepts what is felt as truth and organizes your behavior to match it. In that sense, emotion is the magnet of reality. It draws to you what you most consistently feel, whether it is joy or despair, abundance or lack. Imagine someone longing for love. They wake each day with an ache, whispering silently, "I am alone. No one will ever love me." That feeling of unworthiness becomes their constant companion, shaping every word, every glance, every gesture. They walk into a room and unconsciously radiate insecurity. They avoid eye contact, speak with hesitation, and interpret every neutral response as rejection. Not because the world is against them, but because the emotion of lack has settled so deeply into their being that it blinds them to the possibility of love. In this state, even genuine affection cannot penetrate the armor of their assumption. Now, consider the opposite. Someone chooses to live in the emotional state of already being loved. They close their eyes and let that feeling flood their senses. They imagine the warmth of companionship, the security of being cherished, the ease of belonging. They speak and act as one who knows they are valued, not in arrogance, but in quiet confidence. What happens then? Their energy changes. People sense it without understanding why. They are drawn to the radiance, the calm assurance, the inner harmony. This is not mystical, it is psychological. Emotion programs the subconscious, and the subconscious governs behavior. And behavior, over time, shapes the world around you. The same principle applies to every area of life: wealth, health, purpose. You can recite affirmations 1,000 times, but if your heart is dry, they are empty words floating in the wind. You can say, "I am successful," yet feel anxiety gnawing at your soul, and your subconscious will respond to the feeling, not the words. The vibration of your being is set by what you feel most often, and that vibration calls forth circumstances that harmonize with it. So how do you harness this truth? By entering the feeling of your wish fulfilled as often and as vividly as you can before sleep, when the conscious mind loosens its grip and the subconscious is most receptive. Close your eyes and imagine. See the life you long for, but more than that, feel it. Feel the warmth of that new home, the joy of that achievement, the peace of that secure relationship. Let it saturate your senses until you are no longer wishing for it, but living in it, inwardly and completely. This is not daydreaming, it is deliberate creation. It is impressing upon the subconscious the reality you choose. At first, it may feel like pretending, but as you persist, the boundary between imagination and belief begins to dissolve. Your nervous system responds, your body releases tension, your mind opens to possibility. Soon, you carry that feeling into your waking hours. You speak from it, you act from it, you choose from it, and life, as if in obedience, begins to rearrange itself around the truth you have claimed with your emotion. So ask yourself, what do I feel most of the time? For that feeling is the prophecy of my future. If I dwell in fear, fear will come. If I dwell in love, love will come. If I live in the silent music of gratitude, the world will dance to its rhythm. Your feelings are the seeds of tomorrow. Plant them wisely and water them daily with the conviction that what you feel is already real. When you live in the assumption of your fulfilled desire, something profound begins to happen. Your actions, without struggle or strain, begin to harmonize with that inner reality. You no longer wake up each day wondering what to do, nor do you force yourself to move forward with clenched fists and gritted teeth. The compulsion to act from fear, to scramble in desperation, disappears. Instead, your choices flow from a deeper center, a place where your desired reality already exists. This is the difference between forcing and allowing, between striving and becoming. Every human being acts in accordance with the picture they hold of themselves. If you assume yourself to be a certain kind of person, you will inevitably behave in a way that confirms it. Identity drives behavior far more than rules, discipline, or external pressure ever could. The man who sees himself as strong does not need to remind himself to act courageously. Courage emerges naturally. The woman who assumes she is loved does not chase affection, nor does she compromise her dignity. Her very presence commands respect. In the same way, when you adopt the assumption that your desire is already fulfilled, you step into a new identity. And from that identity, new actions flow like water from a hidden spring. Imagine a young entrepreneur standing at the threshold of her journey. She assumes, not with arrogance but with unwavering certainty, that she is destined for success. This assumption becomes the lens through which she views every challenge, every decision, every setback. Because she has already accepted success inwardly, she invests in learning without hesitation. She seeks out mentors, builds connections, and persists when doors close, because her inner conviction tells her these obstacles are temporary, even necessary, on the path she has already claimed as hers. She does not ask, "What if I fail?" because failure does not belong to her identity. Every action, every choice reflects the certainty of who she believes herself to be. Now, consider the opposite. A person who secretly assumes failure, even as they speak of dreams and ambitions. They may take a few steps forward, but fear lurks beneath the surface, whispering doubts. When opportunity knocks, they hesitate, questioning whether they are ready. They shrink from risk, procrastinate, or sabotage themselves in subtle ways, because deep down their assumption says, "This is not who I am." No amount of external motivation can override the gravity of that inner belief. And so, Their outer life becomes a faithful servant to their inner assumption. Failure fulfilling itself through inaction and fear. This is why so many people chase success, yet never truly find it. They try to change their actions without changing the identity from which those actions spring. They attempt to impose new habits upon an old self-image, like painting over cracked walls without repairing the foundation. But sooner or later, the old assumption reasserts itself, pulling them back to the level of life they secretly believe they deserve. True transformation begins not with forcing behavior, but with embracing a new identity. When you assume the reality of your fulfilled desire, you become the person for whom that reality is natural, and your actions follow effortlessly. You cannot fake this. Pretending to be confident while feeling unworthy inside creates tension and exhaustion. But when the assumption settles into your being, action becomes as effortless as breathing. You no longer chase opportunities. You attract them through the quiet authority of someone who knows where they belong. Choices that once felt terrifying become obvious, because they align with who you now are. You do not need to persuade yourself to persist. Persistence is automatic when quitting feels unnatural to your identity. This is the silent power of assumption. It reorganizes your life without noise, without force, without constant struggle. You step into a new state of being, and that state calls forth behaviors that shape destiny. Your identity is the compass, and your actions are its faithful needle, always pointing toward the reality you have already claimed within. So ask yourself, who am I being right now? If your answer is rooted in limitation and fear, your actions will betray you. But if you choose, truly choose, to assume the identity of one who has already received their desire, life begins to move in harmony with that truth. And from that point forward, every step you take, every decision you make, becomes an echo of the destiny you have already embraced. There will come moments when everything you see stands in stark contradiction to everything you believe. These are the hours of testing, the silent nights when your mind whispers questions and your heart trembles under the weight of uncertainty. It is in these moments that doubt enters, not as an enemy to destroy you, but as a shadow that seeks to obscure the light you have chosen to follow. Doubt is natural. It comes because the outer world moves more slowly than the inner one, because reality requires time to take the shape of the image you hold within. But know this, if you surrender to doubt, if you let it take root and grow, you will abandon the very seed you planted with such care. The external world is always the last to change. The unseen work begins deep in the soil of your mind and soul long before it bursts into view. Imagine planting a seed in the earth. For days, perhaps weeks, the soil remains undisturbed, silent, seemingly barren. You water it, you nurture it, and yet nothing greets your eyes. If you are impatient, you might dig up the soil to check its progress, and in doing so, you destroy the fragile life beginning beneath the surface. This is what doubt does. It digs up what faith has planted. It uproots the tender shoots of possibility before they have a chance to break through into the light. What you do not see in those early days is the quiet miracle unfolding beneath the soil. The seed is softening, splitting open, sending out roots into the darkness, anchoring itself for the growth to come. Without this hidden work, no flower would ever bloom, no tree would ever stand. And so it is with your desires. The fact that nothing appears to be happening does not mean nothing is happening. Life works in secret before it works in sight, yet most people cannot bear this silence. They plant their vision one day and demand its harvest the next. At the first sign of resistance, they retreat. At the first whisper of contradiction, They abandon their inner certainty and return to the familiar prison of doubt. And then they wonder why their lives remain unchanged. They do not understand that persistence in assumption is the bridge between imagination and reality. When doubt whispers, and it will, you must answer not with panic, but with calm authority. Return to the state of your fulfilled desire. Feel it again. Speak it again. Walk through your day as though it were already done. Let your words, your thoughts, your gestures echo the reality you have chosen within. This is not self-deception. This is self-creation. You are shaping the unseen forces that will eventually shape your world. Consider this. Every great achievement was once a lonely conviction in the heart of its creator. The inventor who gave the world light worked in darkness for years while others mocked and doubted. The artist who birthed beauty endured seasons of obscurity, holding to a vision no one else could see. The pioneers, the dreamers, the builders, all of them learned the discipline of prevailing over doubt. They understood that reality bends slowly but surely to the will that refuses to break. Do not mistake delay for denial. There is a rhythm to manifestation, a sacred timing that often defies your own. You are not waiting for life to change. Life is waiting for you to remain steadfast, long enough for the invisible to take form. Doubt is the signal that you are near the edge of transformation, not the proof that your dream is false. So hold fast. When your mind trembles and the world seems empty, water the seed with faith. Guard it from the cold winds of fear. Let patience be your soil and persistence your sun. For the moment you abandon your assumption, you sever the roots of what could have been. But if you endure, if you keep the inner vision alive through every contradiction, you will one day stand in the sunlight of your fulfilled desire, and the shadow of doubt will vanish like mist at dawn. The environment you live in does not merely decorate your life, it shapes it. The voices you hear, the conversations you engage in, the habits that surround you, they all leave their imprint on your mind. Assumptions, no matter how strong they seem at first, are fragile in the wrong atmosphere. A single seed can grow into a towering tree, but not if it is planted in barren soil. Likewise, the assumption of your fulfilled desire cannot thrive in an environment saturated with doubt, fear, and limitation. Human beings are profoundly impressionable. We like to imagine ourselves as independent thinkers, immune to influence, but research on social dynamics tells a different story. Our habits, our beliefs, even our ambitions are shaped by the people we interact with most. If you spend your days among those who expect little of life, who speak the language of defeat and resignation, their tone will seep into your thoughts. At first you may resist. You may say, "I will hold on to my vision no matter what." But the human spirit, like water, takes the shape of its container. And if the container is small, you will unconsciously shrink to fit it. Imagine sharing your dreams with those who laugh at them, who warn you of failure, who cloak their fear in the disguise of caution. Each word becomes a stone placed on the fragile wings of your belief, weighing it down until it can no longer rise. The erosion of faith is rarely dramatic. It happens quietly, like water carving stone. One dismissive comment here, one sarcastic smile there, until the fire you once held burns to ash. Contrast this with another scene. Picture yourself among those who nourish your vision, who speak possibility, who carry the fragrance of ambition and hope. In their presence, your assumption does not merely survive, it flourishes. Their confidence becomes a mirror in which you see your own strength more clearly. Their courage reminds you of your own. When you falter, they lift you. When you hesitate, they push you gently forward. This is not fantasy. It is the law of influence in action. The truth is simple: the environment you choose will either affirm your identity or erode it. If you aspire to greatness while surrounding yourself with mediocrity, your journey will feel like swimming against a relentless tide. Not because greatness is beyond you, but because the tide of your environment is pulling you in the opposite direction. Success will feel unnatural when every voice around you assumes failure as the norm. But change your environment, and everything shifts. Seek out voices that echo your highest vision. Fill your mind with words that inspire rather than diminish. Read books that remind you of possibility. Listen to those who have walked the path before you, whose very existence is proof that your dream can be made flesh. Join communities where ambition is not mocked but celebrated, where persistence is honored, where faith is the common language. For what surrounds you enters you, and what enters you becomes you. This does not mean you must sever every tie or retreat into isolation. It means you must be deliberate, intentional, and fiercely protective of your inner state. If your current circle cannot see your vision, do not let them blind you to it. If their conversations drain your energy, limit your exposure and seek spaces that replenish your strength, for your mind, like a garden, must be guarded from weeds as well as nurtured with light. You cannot plant the seed of your assumption in toxic soil and expect a harvest. It requires an atmosphere where faith feels natural, where hope breathes easily, where your identity as one who has already received their desire is not questioned, but reinforced. Create such an environment, and your assumption will grow roots so deep that no storm of doubt can uproot it. Because in the end, the life you live will rise, or fall, to the level of the company you keep. Surround yourself with those who remind you of your strength, not your weakness. Walk among voices that sing of possibility, not chains. Build an inner and outer world that affirms the truth you have chosen, and watch how, in such an environment, your assumption transforms from a fragile dream into an unshakable reality. Gratitude is more than politeness or social etiquette. It is a spiritual force, a living affirmation that what you desire is already yours in the unseen realm. When you practice gratitude for what has not yet materialized, you are making a profound declaration that you trust life, that you trust the unfolding of events, and that you believe enough to give thanks before the evidence arrives. This is not naive optimism. It is psychological alignment. It is the harmonizing of your inner world with the reality you seek to create. Gratitude, in this sense, becomes an invisible bridge between your present state and your future fulfillment. Consider what happens when you genuinely give thanks for something. In that moment, you feel complete. There is no yearning, no desperation, no sense of incompleteness. Instead, there is a deep calm, a subtle joy that radiates from within. That feeling is not trivial, it is transformative. It signals to your mind and body that the struggle is over, that the destination has been reached. And when your nervous system registers completion, your actions, your words, and even your unconscious attitudes begin to reflect that sense of arrival. You stop chasing, and in that stillness, what you desire begins to find its way to you. Each morning, when you take a pen and write, "I am grateful that," followed by the vision you hold, you are not lying to yourself. You are training your consciousness to dwell in the reality you wish to experience. This exercise is not a mere ritual. It is an act of creative imagination infused with emotion. It teaches your mind to abandon the barren soil of lack and root itself in the fertile ground of abundance. But the secret lies not in the words alone. The words are a doorway. The real transformation happens when you feel the gratitude as if the reality is present now. When your heart warms with the certainty that life has already delivered its promise, the universe begins to rearrange itself in harmony with that belief. Why does this work? Because gratitude shifts the axis of your perception. It pulls you out of the position of a seeker and places you in the position of a receiver. When you wait, you vibrate with absence. You look at what is missing, and in doing so, you feed that absence with your attention. But when you give thanks as though the gift is already in your hands, your focus moves from lack to possession. You are no longer standing outside your dream, knocking on a locked door. You have stepped inside, and from that inner dwelling, you speak and act with quiet confidence. And life, as it always does, mirrors the certainty you carry. Think of the times when you felt genuine gratitude in your life. Not for something you hoped for, but for something real and tangible. Recall how soft and open your heart felt, how your breathing slowed, how everything seemed brighter, even if only for a moment. That state of being is magnetic. It draws to you experiences that match its frequency. Now imagine living in that state not because the evidence has appeared, but because you have chosen to embody it before the evidence. This is the essence of assumption made real. Gratitude seals the assumption because it removes doubt from the equation. Doubt cannot coexist with true thankfulness. You cannot be sincerely grateful for something and simultaneously question its reality. When you give thanks in advance, you are telling the deepest parts of yourself, "It is done. There is nothing to fear. There is nothing to strive for. I already hold it." That conviction becomes a quiet power, a silent force that moves unseen yet shapes everything you encounter. And perhaps this is the most profound truth of all. Life listens not to the loud cries of desperation, but to the steady whisper of certainty. Gratitude is that whisper. It does not beg. It does not plead. It simply acknowledges and receives. When you understand this and practice it with sincerity, you will see that gratitude is not the end of the journey. It is the very path that carries you there. Living in the assumption of your fulfilled desire is not fantasy. It is the creative act of aligning your thoughts, emotions, and actions with the highest vision of your life. The question is not, can this happen? The question is, can I assume it as already done? Because when you do, the world seen and unseen moves to make it so.